Full son of Mother Sachi, Sri Sachitut Ashtakam ki jai.
Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Nadia Udayagiri Purnachandra Gaurahari Kripa Kodi Hoila Uday Nadia Udayagiri Purnachandra Gaurahari Kripa Kodi Hoila Uday Papa Tama Hoilo Nasa Trijagat Thera Ulas Jagabhari Hari Dhwani Haya Papa Tama Hoilonas Trijagat Thera Ulas Jagabhari Hari Dhwani Haya Nadia Udayagiri Purnachandra Gaurahari Kripa Kodi Hoila Uday Apatama Hoila Nas Trijagat Thera Ulas Jagabori Hari Dhwani Hai Ladies, Nadia. The place known as Nadia. Udayagiri is the appearing place. Purna Chandra, the full moon. Gaur Hari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kripa, by mercy, Kodi, doing so, Hoila, became, Udaya, risen, Papa, sinful, Tama, darkness, Hoila, became, Nasha, dissipated, Tri Jagatera, of the three worlds, Ulas, happiness, Jagabhari, filling the whole world, Haridvani, the transcendental vibration of Hari, Haya, resounded. Thus, by his causeless mercy, the full moon Gaur Hari rose in the district of Nadia, which is compared to Udayagiri, where the sun first becomes visible. His rising in the sky dissipated the darkness of sinful life, and thus the three worlds became joyful and chanted the holy name of the Lord. Sekale Nijalaya Utiya Advaitarai Nritya Kodi Anandita Mani Haridasi Loya Sange Hankara Kirtana Range Kene Nache Kehanahi Jani. At that time, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, in his own house at Shantipur, was dancing in a pleasing mood. Taking Haridas Thakur with him, he danced and loudly chanted Hare Krishna. But why they were dancing, no one could understand. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is understood that Advaita Prabhu at that time was in his own paternal house in Shantipur. Haridas Thakur frequently used to meet him. Coincidentally, therefore, he was also there. And upon the birth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, both of them immediately began to dance. But no one in Shantipur could understand why those two saintly persons were dancing. Om Agyantimidandasya Jnananjanat Shalakaya Chakshuru Milidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Judhapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vidham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patithanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaudatvishe Namaha Hare Krishna. We welcome Her Grace Lakshmi Moni Devi. Today, Gaur Purnima. Historically, there's a special significance to Gaur Purnima this year for the history of our Gaudiya Sampradaya and the history of the good fortune of the world. It's 50th anniversary. Does everyone know what it is the 50th anniversary of? It is when Srila Prabhupada completed the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. On Gaur Purnima, 1968. I'd like to just read the first paragraph and last paragraph of Srila Prabhupada's preface. As you can see, it's 50 years old. But the message is eternal. The first page reads, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. A treatise on factual spiritual life by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Acharya International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This is before Srila Prabhupada was being called upon by the name of Prabhupada. And the headquarters of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness at that time, the world headquarters, was 61 2nd Avenue, New York City, New York. The publishers give their obeisance to Prabhupada with his first pranam mantra, because the second pranam mantra wasn't yet being utilized. And Srila Prabhupada dedicates to the sacred service of Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who initiated the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world, McGill University, Canada, in 1896. Srila Prabhupada writes, the year of my birth. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. In the preface, and interesting, this same preface that was written 50 years ago today was also the preface for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was written many years later. There is no difference between the teachings of Lord Chaitanya presented here and the teachings of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. The teaching of Lord Chaitanya is a practical demonstration of the teaching of Lord Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, the last word of the Lord is that everyone should surrender unto him, Lord Krishna, and that he will take immediate charge of such a surrendered soul. The Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is already in charge of the maintenance of this creation by his plenary expansion as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. But such maintenance by the Lord is not specific, and therefore the Lord takes charge. It means that he takes particular charge of a pure devotee. A pure devotee is a soul ever surrendered to the Lord, like a child to his parents, or an animal to its master. This surrendering process is manifested in 6 different stages. Namely, 1, to accept things favorable for discharging devotional service. 2, to reject things unfavorable for discharging devotional service. 3, to believe firmly that the Lord will protect his devotee always. 4, to feel exclusively dependent on the mercy of the Lord. 5, to have no separate interest besides the interest of the Lord. And 6, always to feel oneself meek and humble. At the conclusion of the preface, Srila Prabhupada writes, one has to suffer or enjoy the fruits of one's activity, and nobody can check the laws of material nature which govern such things. So long as one is engaged in such activities, one is sure to be baffled in attempting to achieve the ultimate goal of life. I hope, therefore, most sincerely, that by understanding the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, human society will have a new light of spiritual life, opening the field of activities of the pure soul. Om Tat Sat. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. 14th March 1968, the birthday of Lord Chaitanya. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple, New York, New York. I'm not exactly releasing this book. but this book will release us from the repeated cycle of birth and death. The first temple I ever lived in or visited in ISKCON, it was in Amsterdam, because in India I never saw any ISKCON temple. In Vrindavan they hadn't even started construction of Krishna Balaram when I had to leave. And in Mumbai they hadn't yet started construction of Radharas Bihari temple. But the temple I went to, there was maybe 11 or 12 devotees. And the president of the temple, who just after I left actually became a sannyasi. He was a brahmachari then. His name was Akoya Das Prabhu. There was no Srimad Bhagavatam class in those days. Every morning, for the morning class, soon after Mangalarti, there would be a 1-hour reading from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. No explanations or lectures, just reading. It was where Srila Prabhupada explained the most essential teachings of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He describes, first he begins with, from the book of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sri Chaitanya, his life and precepts. He gives a summary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. Then he explains Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Rupa Goswami, Prayag. His teachings to Srila Sanatana Goswami, Varanasi. His teachings to Prakashananda Saraswati, again in Varanasi. His teachings to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri. And concludes with teachings of the conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Ramananda Rai in Kavur, on the banks of Godavari, Rajmundry, or in those days Vidyanagara. Srila Prabhupada, as we have just read from his own writing, the introduction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, along with the book it's contained in, happened to arrive in America, North America, Canada. first time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings in its true parampara had reached the shores of the Western world. And as Lord Chaitanya's message took birth in the West, same year Srila Prabhupada took birth in Calcutta. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a great lover of Navadvip Dham, as was all of our acharyas. It's interesting, in the early 1970s, Srila Prabhupada had about 50 temples. He had a beautiful temple in Los Angeles. A little later, he had a skyscraper in New York City. Why did Srila Prabhupada choose to make his world headquarters in a desolate rice paddy in West Bengal? There was no good road to get there. Except for Bengalis, hardly anyone on the planet ever heard of the place. Mayapur. There was some nice little Gaudiya mats, but mostly it was a Muslim population. It was quite dangerous, isolated. Yet around that time when Srila Prabhupada was in Gainesville, Florida, he began a lecture by saying, I have come to this small part of the world, and I am so far from Sri, which is such a great distance from Sri Navadvip Dham, Mayapur, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Because he considered it the center of the universe spiritually. Srila Prabhupada very much bewildered devotees when he came to that little rice paddy. During the monsoons, the Ganga would flood and cover everything in her river at times. There was no money. They built a little straw hut that Srila Prabhupada would live in. He got little deities he brought Sri Radha Madhav. Especially during the monsoons, devotees had to sleep on the rooftop of that straw hut. And most were Western people. And so many snakes and cobras would be swimming around in the Ganga. It was a culture shock. And those devotees were thinking, what can happen here? But Srila Prabhupada was explaining, this will be our world headquarters. And he talked about this temple of a Vedic planetarium. He gave a basic design for it. One of the largest temples in all of Asia. And he talked about tens and thousands of devotees from every part of the world living here. And just a few people who were living there They were struggling with malaria and typhoid and dysentery. Just trying to get some rice to offer the deities and eat. But Srila Prabhupada's faith in the words of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, long before, when Thakur Bhaktivinoda was living just across the river, he had a vision of a glorious temple. Where devotees, Vaishnavas, from America, from Europe, from Russia, from India, from all over the world, as brothers and sisters, would be dancing together, chanting the holy names of A few years later, Srila Prabhupada invited devotees to the first Mayapur Gaur Purnima festival. And Lakshmi Moni Devi, do you remember how many people came at that time? Wasn't very many, maybe 100 or less. Probably less than 100. And that was a huge crowd. There was no place for them. They were sleeping on just construction site slabs. Mosquitoes were very happy. And yeah, they were having kirtan, and devotees were cooking in the fields. Srila Prabhupada was lecturing, and even then nobody could understand what could possibly happen here. There was so much trouble to get there. From Calcutta, you took a train to the Howrah station, and in those days Howrah station was really crowded. Still really crowded. But now there's so many other types of transportation. In those days, that was all there was practically. And somehow you'd get through there, take a train to Krishna Nagar, then take a boat across the river, then walk for miles and miles to a rice paddy where there was a straw hut and a little construction site going on. That was the festival. The devotees were blissful because we cannot see through our eyes until our eyes are premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena, till our eyes are decorated with the salve of pure love. We just see the external appearance of things. Srila Prabhupada, he taught us we must see through our ears, see through our faith in the words of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Then we actually see as it is. So Srila Prabhupada was so excited. We got this land. It's this heart of the spiritual world, the holiest of all holy places. This is not different than Vrindavan. And when he was talking about, with such excitement, how Mayapur would manifest, devotees were equally excited just on the basis of their faith in the impossible. In fact, when Srila Prabhupada decided to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is a summary, teachings of Lord Chaitanya 50 years ago he completed. It's a summary of teachings within Chaitanya Charitamrita. But as he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam, and he already completed Ishopanishad and Bhagavad Gita as it is, and he was Nectar of Devotion, he was simultaneously decided that I must give my students the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita so that they can present to the world. And he just dedicated his compassion, his love into that service. While devotees would sleep, he would be up translating and writing purports. And there is the famous story when he completed. He told Rameshwar Maharaj that I want this complete in, was it 2 months? 2 months. So many volumes. And the BBT leaders, they said, Srila Prabhupada, that is impossible. That's like more than 10 times what we've ever done. And Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he prophesied that in every town and village the names of Krishna will be chanted. Nityananda Prabhu, when he saw Lord Chaitanya in a little village near Puri getting thousands of people to participate in kirtan, he had that same prediction, that in every town and village throughout the world the holy names will be chanted. When Srila Prabhupada came to America, and why did he come to America? Because his guru gave him the instruction in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you are an intelligent young man, take the message of Lord Chaitanya to the Western world in English language. During Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, it was attempted. But after some time, there was nothing really sustained. Because it just seemed impossible. And there's that beautiful story when Prabhupada was, after he got that ticket on the Jaladuta from Sumati Morarji here in Mumbai, he took a train, I think it was the mail train, which takes the postal letters. In those days, I remember taking that train. It took about 48 hours. He was probably in third class. From Calcutta, he went to Mayapur to receive the blessings of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at his Samadhi, and receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda to take their message, which was established in Mayapur Dham. He was going to take it from there to the West. He stopped in Shantipur. The pujari there at Advaita Bhavan, the very place where Advaita Prabhu and Haridas Thakur would pray and do kirtan and do pujas to bring Krishna down to this world, to establish the Sankirtan movement all over the world. Sri Advaita Prabhu, he was the leader of all the Brahmins. He had a house on the bank of the Ganges. There was a small group of devotees that would meet in Navadvip. They would have kirtan, harikatha. Why was Sri Advaita Prabhu in distress while simultaneously experiencing the highest pleasures of love of God? Because that's the nature of pure love. One who has Krishna prema in this world feels great distress to see anyone without that prema. Paradukha dukhi. He made a vow, I will bring Krishna to this world, because no one else can deliver the prema of the residents of Vrindavan except Krishna. And who is Sri Advaita Prabhu? He's simultaneously Mahavishnu and Sadashiva. Mahavishnu is the supreme father of the entire cosmic manifestation. He's the super soul of all of creation. His expansion, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, is the super soul within each universe. And his expansion, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, is the super soul within the heart of every living being. Karunodakshai Mahavishnu, simply by his will, the whole cosmic manifestation and the Mahatattva is created. By his glance, he pregnates all living beings. In the form of Advaita, he's everyone's father. And Sadashiva is the original Shiva. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't just give love for Krishna. At Prayag, Rupa Goswami prayed, Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tveshe Namah. You are Krishna, but you are even more munificent, more merciful than Krishna. This is so interesting. How can Krishna be more merciful than Krishna? Because Krishna, who is the original, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, the original source of all incarnations, the Brahma Jyoti, the infinite, limitless Brahman, which the Jnana Yogis are birth after birth after birth trying to attain the liberation of entering into that Brahman. It is the halo of the effulgent body of Krishna. Brahmano hi pratishta. And the Paramatma who is situated in every living being's heart is the plenary portion, expansion of Krishna. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Source of everything that exists. And then the highest revelation, as Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya discussed, of love meets its culmination, its fullest perfection in Vrindavan, the Madhurya Dham. When Krishna came to this world approximately 5,000 years ago, he performed his beautiful Vrindavan pastimes. And the Srimad Bhagavatam explains, and the culmination is the Ras Lila. And the culmination of Ras Lila is Krishna's limitless love for Sri Radha and Sri Radha's limitless love for Krishna. That love is the origin of all love. But as Sukadeva Goswami explained Srimad Bhagavatam and the beautiful Vrindavan pastimes, it's an exclusive place for those who have completely surrendered to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins with the basic teachings. We're not this body, Arjuna. Why are you in so much confusion? And it culminates in Sarva Dharman Parityasya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishamimasaja. Abandon all varieties of dharma. Just surrender to me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam, who comes to taste the sweetness of Sri Radha's love and to distribute the love of Vrindavan. Sri Radha's love in Vrindavan, her compassion to all living beings, are revealed to the world in Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna, comes in the form of a devotee to practically teach us by his example and the example of all his devotees how to surrender to Krishna. And take even the most fallen souls of Kali Yuga and give them the opportunity to enter into the spiritual realm of Vrindavan. There's a place in Vrindavan called Manasi Ganga. There's another place, Mansarovar. When Sri Krishna left Sri Radharani and she was in separation, she wept tears of love in separation. And those tears of her Viraha Bhava filled a lake that is called Mansarovar. Lord Shiva wanted to taste the sweetness of the gopis' love because he knew it is the highest of all states of spiritual perfection. So he approached Brinda Devi. She said, "You cannot do so in a male body. Go to Mansarovar and take bath with your deep longing to serve Krishna in this mood." So Lord Shiva, Mahadev, he offered his prayers, he performed his pujas, he chanted the holy names, he submerged himself in Mansarovar, and Mahadev came out of the lake as Gopeshwar Mahadev. He had the body and the bhav of a gopi. So it's this, we read in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, at a certain time, I believe it was around when Lord Chaitanya showed the universal form to Advaita Prabhu, it describes that Sri Advaita danced ecstatically in the mood of a gopi. So I remember discussing with someone, I said, how is Mahavishnu in the mood of a gopi? And how is Shiva in the mood of a gopi? Because Advaita Acharya was very much in the mood of Gopeshwar Mahadev. And that's what he wanted to give to the world. That love that only Radharani and Krishna could give. He read from the Gautamiya Tantra that anyone who worships Lord Krishna, Vishnu, with Ganga water and tulsi leaves, Krishna will fulfill their wish. So Advaita Acharya, on the banks of Ganga Mai, he was worshipping a shalagram shil, offering tulsi leaves, offering Ganga water, loudly crying, constantly fasting, chanting in his prayers the names of the Lord. And his prayers reached the heart of Krishna. Simultaneously, Srila Haridas Thakur, he was from what was classified by conventional society in those days as an untouchable. And we read in the history of Haridas Thakur, practically wherever he went, he was persecuted, he was rejected, he was criticized. His life was in danger. People were trying to destroy him. The Muslims hated him because he was a Muslim and he's chanting Krishna's names. In those days, if you weren't so, they didn't accept that. The Hindu Brahmins, many hated him because he's coming from untouchable caste and he's chanting Mahamantra, the great mantra. And he's getting so many people to follow him. But when he came to Shantipur, Sri Advaita Prabhu embraced him. The highest of the Brahmins and a persecuted person from an untouchable social background, they loved each other. They respected each other as equals with the deepest love because they recognized their love for Krishna. They would chant together, they would have Hari Katha together. In fact, Advaita Acharya, during the Shraddha Patra, he demonstrated to all the topmost Brahmins of the area that the most worshipable among everyone is Haridas Thakur. Haridas was in his cave and on the riverbanks chanting 300,000 names every day, praying for Krishna to appear. So Srila Prabhupada went to that place, Shantipur. to receive the blessings of Sri Advaita Prabhu. Lord Chaitanya brought Lord Chaitanya to the world. So many times Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I have only come here because Advaita Prabhu has called me. That is one of the reasons. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada instructed our Prabhupada. This was about 33 years before, to take Lord Chaitanya's message to the West. So Srila Prabhupada was praying and praying. And the Pujari saw him. He would see him years before as a Grihasta coming and praying, just in the back of the temple. And now, after many years of being away, he saw him come, same person. Now he's 69 years old, he's a sannyasi. And when Prabhupada took Charanamrit from him, he asked him, please bless me, I'm coming to pray because my Guru has given me an impossible service. Impossible. No one had ever done it successfully. Today, that little rice paddy with the little straw hut that Prabhupada lived in and gave his vision. How many devotees live there now? There's over 2,000 devotees from all nationalities practically who are living there. And the Temple of Vedic Planetarium, it's almost complete. We all still need to help out, and we'll all have that opportunity. It's a miracle of love. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur saw it in a vision. And Srila Prabhupada and his son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave the order that that vision be carried out. Srila Prabhupada, his compassion is our only qualification to receiving the supreme mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Navadvip Dham Mahatmya gives some wonderful realizations, historical stories that led to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent. There, Nityananda Prabhu is speaking to Jiva Goswami, revealing the highest truths of who Lord Chaitanya really is. He tells the story of Lord Brahma. I'm just going to tell a few stories about the greatest personalities of the universe and how they were blessed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After Aghasura was delivered by Krishna, the demigods were stunned. And even Brahma wanted to see, how is this? And when he came, there was little Krishna sitting on the bank of the Yamuna with his little cowherd friends. They were so small. They were still then taking care of calves. They weren't big enough to take care of cows in the estimation of Nanda and the cowherd men. They were all sitting in circles around Krishna. They were sharing prasad. One Gopa would take a bite out of a laddu and say, "Krishna, this is very good, try some." And Krishna would take it and bite into the bite mark of his friend and say, "Yes, this is very good." And then he would share it with another, and they would all be, Krishna's Yajna Purusha. Brahmins are offering so many prayers and Vedic mantras and ghee and other holy substances to Vishnu. And here's Vishnu's eating the food coming out of these little cowherd boys' mouths. So Brahma, he wanted to, what is this? He got bewildered. Sometimes great people get bewildered. So as we know, he took the calves away, and then the Gopas went to look. They were feeling distressed, and Krishna went to look, and Krishna stole the Gopas. Brahma stole the Gopas and the calves. Krishna manifested himself as every cowherd boy and every calf, so identical that the mothers for 1 full year could not detect. And when Brahma came down again and saw everything was the same, he became even more bewildered. And then when each one of the calves became Vishnu, and the little boys became Vishnu, and there were millions of them, he became even more bewildered. Then when everything disappeared and Krishna was in the exact same pose, holding a little lump of yogurt and rice as he was a year before, innocently looking, where is my calves? Where are my friends? Then he was even more bewildered. And at that state, his ego was completely crushed. And he came down to that little boy, came down on a swan carrier, and he surrendered. He put his head on the little boy's feet and offered beautiful prayers. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his citing from Nityananda Prabhu's teachings to Jiva Goswami, how Haridas Thakur, he was thinking, this post of Brahma, being the supreme of the demigods, he lives 311 trillion years. No, I'm sorry. How much is it? 3? Yeah. And there's nobody superior to him in the whole universe. Brahmaloka. He was thinking, if I had any real intelligence when Krishna appears, I should have been a cowherd boy or a calf or something. What is the use of being Brahma? It was only when Brahma completely forsook his ego that he could actually see Vrindavan as it is. He saw every tree as a kalpabriksha. He saw every grain of dust as chintamani. He saw the cows as surabhis. He explains it in Brahma Samhita, what his vision and realization was after he surrendered. And he understood in Kali Yuga, after Krishna, he always appears as Lord Gauranga. I don't want to make this mistake when Lord Chaitanya comes. So he went to Navadvip because he knows it's revealed in the scriptures that in the age of Kali, once in a day of Brahma, Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip. And there he was constantly chanting the holy names of Lord Gauranga and praying. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him. When Lord Brahma revealed to Lord Chaitanya how he didn't want to make the mistake again. He wanted the lowliest position, the humblest position to serve him. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Brahma that I will fulfill your wish. Just before I take birth as Lord Gauranga in this world, you will take birth as Haridas Thakur in a family of Yavanas. Such a humble position. Lord Brahma is so powerful, and yet he assumes an identity where he's being blasphemed and persecuted, and he just humbly accepts it. Lord Chaitanya told, as Haridas Thakur, you will worship me and you will love me by chanting 300,000 names of Krishna every day. He revealed his beautiful form of Lord Gauranga to Brahma. Lord Chaitanya said, hear from me these most secret teachings. Taking the position of a devotee, I shall taste the nectar of bhakti ras, the mellow of loving devotional service to Krishna, and I will inaugurate the most rare and glorious Sankirtan movement. I will reveal to all my devotees, including those of my previous incarnations, the nectarine mellows of Vrindavan. The love which Srimati Radharani possesses for me, Krishna, is beyond even my comprehension. I will therefore appear with her sentiments and complexion, and taking her position, I will taste that happiness which she alone obtains by serving me. From this day, act as my disciple, and in the form of Haridas Thakur, serve me eternally. Because Lord Chaitanya revealed long before he appeared in this world, he appeared this confidential knowledge. That island is known as Antardvip. One day in Satya Yuga, Lord Shiva was in a state that Parvati never saw him before. He was chanting the names of Gauranga. Thank you for waking each other up. As he was chanting the names of Gauranga, he was dancing in ecstasy. Lord one of the names of Shiva is Nataraj. He's a very good dancer. And Parvati has seen him dancing so many times. But never like this. He was in so much an ecstatic mood, dancing and crying. Parvati asked him, I've never seen you in such a state before. Who is this Gauranga? And Lord Shiva explains that to Parvati, in the age of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, will appear with the sentiments and the love of Sri Radharani. And you, Parvati, are an expansion of Sri Radharani. He will not only taste the sweetness of the highest ecstasies of love, but he will distribute them even to the most fallen people of this world in this age of Kali Yuga. And then he described the beauty of Lord Chaitanya. His eyes will be like full-blown, fully bloomed lotus petals. His face will be like a golden moon. His complexion will be molten gold. His arms will extend below his knees. His beautiful hair will circle his face. And he will dance and chant with his devotees. So Parvati, she wanted to taste the sweetness of Lord Chaitanya's love. So she went to one of the islands of Navadvip, and there she sat and meditated on the beautiful form that was described to her by her husband, Mahadev. And with great devotion, she constantly chanted Lord Chaitanya's name. Very soon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to Parvati. In his beautiful golden form of Navadvip Chandra, he was dancing in ecstasy while chanting the names of Krishna with his associates. Parvati was in rapt samadhi, seeing the form of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya asked, why have you come here? And she said, because you have appeared in this wonderful form, this most merciful, most munificent form of Lord Gauranga, to give the highest blessings to all living beings, to escape from this material existence forever and enter into your eternal abode of Vrindavan, to participate in your pastimes, and you will take so many people with you. But I have this thankless task where I'm the goddess of material energy. It's my duty to keep people bound within this world. Therefore, I'm in great distress. Then she took the dust of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet and put it in the part in the center of her head, where her hair was parted. And that place is forever known as Simantadvip. Lord Chaitanya told Parvati that you are an expansion of Srimati Radharani. You're the source of all love. And as Sri Radharani, you are the source of all love. And the very heart of the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, you are also Yogamaya, who's assisting the most intimate, loving exchanges between the devotees and me, and the devotees and each other. And in the holy land of Braj Bhumi, you appear as Purnamasi, the spiritual preceptor of all of Vrindavan, making limitless arrangements for loving pastimes. And here in Navadvip, you will be Brodamaya, my Yogamaya potency, assisting me in my pastimes here. And you will be beside Kshetrapala Shiva, Lord Shiva, who appears in Navadvip as the guardian, just like Gopeshwar Mahadev is the guardian of the Ras Leela. Kshetrapala Mahadev is the guardian of Sri Navadvip Dham, in the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thakur Bhakti Vinod tells us a story in Godramdvip about a king named Suvarna Sen. This was long, long ago. And his palace was not far from the river Jalangi and the river Ganga. He had a magnificent palace. As a king, a very dharmic king, it is tradition that when his eldest children come of age, he turns over the kingdom to them and goes to a holy place or to the forest to exclusively perform pure devotional service. But somehow he was very attached. He had a royal throne. He had so much wealth, so much power. And as he was getting older and older, he couldn't give it up. So one day Narada Muni appeared, playing his veena, chanting the holy names of Krishna. Narada Muni bhajai veena radhika ramana name. Usually in dramas, we always have Narada Muni saying, Narayana, Narayana. But according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he also chants Radhika Raman, the names of Krishna, the lover of Sri Radha. Krishna who gives pleasure to Sri Radha. So when Narada Muni appeared, Suvarna Sen, he was very cultured, dharmic king. He got off his throne and gave Narada Muni a very nice sitting place and washed his feet and made beautiful offerings to him. And because he was humbling himself and he was receptive, Narada Muni instructed him, why are you so much attached to these temporary material things? Dukalayam, I'm paraphrasing, Dukalayam ashashvatam. That everything in this world is a source of misery because it's temporary. He said, "Oh king, yes, now you have beautiful family and so much enjoyment, but at any moment you're going to die and you can take nothing with you. All your relationships with all your loved ones is broken. It's gone. All your wealth, your body, everything, it's gone. When the soul leaves the body, everything of this physical world is lost. So an intelligent person sees that the real treasure of life is what's valuable to the eternal soul. The soul is beyond birth. The soul is beyond death. And the true treasure of the soul is its love for Krishna. Its relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Trying for the soul to try to find happiness in this world is like living in a vast, limitless desert and trying to enjoy a single drop of water. There's something there, but it doesn't satisfy us. Govinda Das. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala. Bhajahun hari padaniti. It's the nature of this world for everyone. This physical body, like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. Our relatives, our friends, our wealth, all of our enjoyments, whatever position we have, whatever recognitions we have. A drop of water on a lotus leaf at any second could disappear. Padam padam yadvi padam natesha. It's danger at every step. In fact, in Mahabharata, Yudhisthira Maharaj, when he's asked by his father, Yamaraj, who's in a disguised form, what is the most amazing thing? Yudhisthira Maharaj gave the perfect answer. The most amazing thing is that everybody knows that they're going to die, and everyone sees that everyone else is going to die, and they even see people dying, and they're reading, history is just a list of names. Srila Prabhupada, in one of his poems, he wrote like that. That we're working so hard in this world, and we're becoming so attached to so many worldly relationships. But all that there really is, in due course of time, is just a long list of names. And very soon everyone forgets those names. So what? Durlabha manava janama satsanga. What's really valuable is the association of devotees. Narada Muni explained like this. Sometimes people, they're trying to better their enjoyment and minimize their pains in this world, so they perform karma kanda. When they realize it's no solution at all, they may go to jnana kanda and try to get liberation from suffering. But even if they get liberation, even through the various yogic processes of getting mystic siddhis, freedom from birth and death, even then, the ananda, the happiness, the love that we're seeking is not to be found. But Narada Muni said, but when you come in the association of pure devotees, then adoshrada, then your faith awakens. Your faith awakens in your true identity as an eternal servant of the Lord. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Lord Chaitanya instructed Rupa Goswami that the science of devotional service is like a vast, limitless ocean. And here at Prayag, I'm going to just explain to you one little drop. But that drop could completely inundate the entire universe. Then he tells that the jiva, the soul, is a tiny fragmental part of Krishna. Jivara Swarapoi Krishnara Nityadas. Our constitutional nature is we are eternally servants of Krishna. But in that service, it's not like service in this world. Our service is the way in which we express the ecstasy of our love for Krishna. And Krishna reciprocates by drowning us in the ocean of his love for us. In the association of devotees, we learn the practice of sadhana. Through that sadhana, our heart becomes cleansed. As our heart becomes cleansed, our faith becomes very deep and unshakable. And as we continue our devotional service, Narada Muni told, then we develop ruchi, the higher taste of experiencing Krishna. And from that higher taste, total attachment to Krishna, deep attachment to serving Krishna, to pleasing Krishna. And bhava, then that bud of love of Krishna appears in our heart. And through devotional service, that bud of love of Krishna blossoms into prema, where we realize our eternal relationship with Sri Krishna in the spiritual world. And this can be realized, this perfection, only through bhakti. Narada Muni explained the 9 processes of bhakti. Sravana Kirtana Smarana Bandhana Pada Sevana Dasyare Pujana Sakhi Jana Atma Nivedana. It begins with hearing about Krishna through self-realized souls and chanting the holy names of Krishna. Narada Muni said, the age of Kali Yuga is the most auspicious time, because it is in this age that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Gauranga, will appear. Krishna coming with the sweet mood of Sri Radha's love to distribute that love to the world. And you are so fortunate, King, that you are living here in Navadvip. But you don't know that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, Lord Gauranga is going, he will soon be performing his pastimes right here. So now he explained that you cannot attain perfection simply by renouncing the things of this world. Perfection comes when we utilize everything we have in the loving service of Krishna. This will be Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. to engage always in the spirit of the servant of the servant of the servant, and always be chanting the holy names. After giving this message to Suvarna saying, Narada Muni, while describing the beautiful form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by describing the limitless nature of his mercy, Narada Muni became so intoxicated in ecstatic love for Lord Chaitanya. Playing his veena, dancing and dancing and dancing, he was continually chanting the names of Gaur Hari. Narada Muni was dancing throughout the palace. Gaur Nitai, Gaur Haribol, Gaur Haribol, Gaur Haribol. And Narada Muni revealed to Suvarna saying these inner truths. And Suvarna Sen became Buddhimantakan, one of the intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip Dham. Years later, when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was with some of his disciples, they were walking from Bhakti Vinod Thakur's house to Narasinghapalli in Godramdvip. And in those days between, there was a very dense, dangerous forest. In those days, there were jackals howling and Bengali tigers. And so many other creatures, like snakes. It's a very deep forest. Nobody would go to that forest because it was just too dangerous and too dense. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told some of his disciples, buy this land. There's so many other lands. But their guru told them, buy this land. So they went to the government people who, because at the office where you have to purchase land to try to get permission to get the land. And the people there, the government people, they said, why do you don't want to buy this land. There's so many other lands in this area, Navadvip. This land, there's tigers, very, very dense and thorny, and there's jackals and snakes. You don't want to live there. Nobody wants to live in that land. The disciples, they thought the same way. But they said, but our guru wants us to buy this land. So they said, well, go back and tell your guru. He doesn't want to buy this land. They said, no, our guru wants to buy this land. So we want to buy this land. He said, okay, it's yours. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, now we go and clear the land. This is parampara, the impossible. So, Kanti aparati janihi name bhakta pranashyati. Faith in their guru's words, they started clearing the land. And as they were clearing, they found ancient ruins of the palace of Suvarna Sen. And they understood this is one of the holiest of the holy places of Navadvip. This is where Narada Muni revealed to Suvarna Sen the highest truths. And Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu appeared. In that same Godram Dweep, Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells a story. One day, Krishna happened to see Nanda Maharaj and Upananda and Abhinanda and Sunanda and Nanda and Nanda. They were all organizing a very, very elaborate puja. And Krishna asked, "What is this for?" And they said, "It is for Indra. Our forefathers have done this every year for so many generations at this time because Indra gives rain. And we are dependent on rain because we're farmers and we protect cows." Krishna said, "Indra will give rain according to your karma. He just has to deliver the karma. He's a demigod. So we're not dependent on Indra. We're nice people. We have good karma. We should worship the cows and Govardhan Hill. Because after all, Govardhan Hill is giving such nice waters to the cows and such nice grasses to the cows. And so pleasing, nourishing all of us." So Nanda and all the cowherd men, they performed Govardhan Puja. And everyone was so happy. They offered mountains of bhoga, and Govardhan ate it all and then gave it back. At a certain time, Krishna wanted to reveal to the world the true identity of Giriraj. And on top of the hill, he manifested a gigantic form of himself so that everyone will know that Govardhan is none different than Krishna. And little Krishna on one side offered his obeisances to the gigantic Krishna on top of the hill. And then according to Krishna's instruction, they offered the food, the bhoga, and then they distributed it to everybody. Then they did parikrama of Govardhan Hill. Everyone was so happy. But Indra was furious. He sent the clouds of devastation to inundate Vrindavan. And Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill with the smallest little finger of his left hand and held it for 7 days and 7 nights. Indra, his ego was crushed and grinded into the finest powder, which could even a little baby could just go and blow it away. Blow it away. So expert Krishna is at protecting. When Krishna says, "Koti aprati janihi name bhakta pranashati," he protects his devotee. It's not always the way we want to be protected. Krishna gives us what we need. And after Indra realized that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's Parameshwara. What did I tried to kill him. I tried to destroy all his cows. I just tried to destroy all the Brijabasis. What will I do? He stopped the rains. That's the first thing he did. And Krishna put Govardhan Hill back. And then so many wonderful pastimes happened. So Indra went to his guru, Brihaspati. So what should I do? Brihaspati said, "Indra, you are a fool." Such a false ego. You tried to destroy God and his whole abode and all of his loving, most intimate loving devotees who descended from the spiritual world, and you're trying to destroy them? Nothing I can do. You better you should go to Brahma. He's the guru of the universe. So Indra went to Brahma. Brahma said, Indra, you are a fool. Nothing I can do. You've offended all the devotees, the Brijbasis. But to speak of the cows and the calves, you should go to Surabhi. The mother of the cows, Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells that she descended from Goloka Vrindavan, this Surabhi. Because Namo Brahmani Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Krishna's very dear to the cows, and the cows are very dear to Krishna. So the king of heaven, Indra, who carries his mighty thunderbolt. He used his thunderbolt so many times to try to do something to Govardhan Hill, to get it to move or to fall. And all the rains and all the thunderbolts, because Govardhan was feeling the tip of Krishna's little finger underneath. He didn't even notice any of the thunderbolts and massive storms of destruction that were happening on top of him. In fact, because he was meditating on Krishna, he was in that higher taste of Krishna. The more Indra tried to destroy him, the more Govardhan was becoming effulgent. So Indra was humbled. But he was desperate. How can I approach Krishna now, after what I just did? So he approached Mother Cow, Surabhi. Surabhi said, come with me. And there's a place in Govardhan Parikrama, Surabhi Kund. There Surabhi approached Krishna. Krishna knows everything, even though he pretends to be, not pretends, but he's in the mood of a little boy. He happened to just go off alone, where nobody else was there, because he didn't want to, after completely crushing Indra's false ego in front of all the demigods, in front of all the sages, in front of all the rishis, he didn't want to do any further, because Indra was now surrendering. He didn't want anybody else to see. So he was all alone in Surabhi. Oh Govinda, Indra made some serious mistakes, but he wants to be forgiven. Please forgive him. However great we are, we can only approach Krishna through the mercy of the devotees. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada. When Guru's pleased, Krishna's pleased. When the Guru's displeased, we can't please Krishna. In the beautiful Navadvip Leela of Jagai and Madhai, Nityananda Prabhu's the original Guru. Jagai and Madhai, so many immoral activities they committed. And when Madhai wanted to surrender to Lord Chaitanya told him, you have to fall at the feet and surrender up to Nityananda Prabhu. If he forgives you, then you can be delivered. Nityananda Prabhu forgave, embraced him, and presented him to Lord Chaitanya. So that's the principle. It's an eternal principle. Indra's the royal king of the heavenly worlds, and Surabhi's a cow. I won't say just a cow. She's a cow. She's millions of times more glorious than Indra. Indra's managing the entire universe. Surabhi's just eating grass. And giving milk. That's all. She doesn't sit on a throne. She's not managing or organizing universal affairs, having meetings with the demigods. She's just eating grass, giving milk. She's a mother. Such a beautiful story. The most powerful organizer, manager, and worshipable demigod who has so much power and so much intelligence, and so much influence, and so many abilities, but he's humbling himself to the lotus hooves of a mother. And because Surabhi is so dear to Krishna, Krishna forgave Indra. After Indra offered his prayers of surrender, Krishna revealed himself so mercifully to Indra. And they had that wonderful Abhishekam, where Surabhi offered her milk to Krishna. And it became Govinda Kund. And Indra, Airavata, his elephant, brought the Akashganga waters, and all the demigods and their consorts and the great sages and their consorts, they all came and performed this wonderful ceremony to worship Krishna as Govinda. Still, Indra told Surabhi that please help me. I really need your help. In the Kali Yuga, when the Lord appears again, I don't want to commit these types of offenses again. So Surabhi said, come with me. And Indra and Surabhi came to Gautam Dvip in the Navadvip Dham. And there they performed seva on the banks of the Jalangi and the Ganga River. And by the mercy of Surabhi, Lord Gauranga appeared before Indra and Surabhi. And told that you will participate in my Leela when I appear in this age of Kali as Lord Gauranga. He told Indra, now you go back to your abode. But Surabhi never wanted to leave Navadvip. And she's living there eternally, under a banyan tree in Gautam. Just close to where Bhakti Vinod Thakur was later to build his little house. Should I tell one more story? Srimad Bhagavatam class, it's now 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So I guess we have time for one more story. When Ram and Sita were exiled from the forest, during their travels, they came to Navadvip, Bodhidruma-dvip. And it was there that Ram, he started to smile. And Sita asked, "Why are you smiling?" He said, because in the age of Kali, I will appear here as Lord Chaitanya, as Lord Gauranga. And I will give freely, but no other incarnation has ever given. The ecstatic love of the spiritual world. And you will appear as Vishnu Priya, and Kausalya, my mother, will appear as Sachi Devi. And he said, my childhood pastimes will attract the world. And then I will have great scholarly pastimes. And then I will establish the Sankirtan movement. And then to reach more and more people with the shower of grace of the Sankirtan movement, I will take sannyas. And I will leave my mother. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said she was around 70 years old. I will leave my mother to cry. And you also. As Vishnu Priya. And Sita did not like this story. She said, Sita said, why do you want to do this to your own mother? And why do you want to do it to me? The Lord Chaitanya explained one great secret. That there's two primary ways of intimate loving exchanges. Sambhog and Vipralamba. In Sambhog, we experience the ecstasy of being in the association of our loved one. In Vipralamba, we feel the ecstasy of the pangs of separation from our loved ones. In that Vipralamba, in that love and service in separation, there's the deepest connection of the ecstasy of love between the soul and God, between the Lord and His devotees. And after a long period of Vipralamba separation, when there is a meeting again together, then the happiness is increased by hundreds and thousands of times. So he was explaining to Sita how he will never be separated from Sachi Mata. He will never be separated from her. He said, in fact, you, Vishnu Priya, after I leave home, you will worship a deity of me, a beautiful golden form, and worship me with all your heart. This is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's coming to this world. Just before class, you sang this wonderful song by Lochan Das Thakur. Parama Karuna Pahundui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra. Tava Avatara Sara Siromani Kevala Ananda Kanda. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are supremely kind, karuna. The fullest, most complete manifestation of compassion that this world has ever seen. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this world, all of the previous incarnations appeared within him. And as Lord Chaitanya explained to Lord Brahma, that even the devotees of all my previous incarnations, when they come to join my pastimes as in Gaur Lila, they will all experience the rasas, the loving exchanges of Vrindavan. This is the gift of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya taught us something very deep. To cultivate the feelings of separation. Trinadapi sunichena taror ibasi hishnuna amani namanadena kirtaniya sadani. We should cultivate these spirit of feeling oneself humbler than a blade of grass. Tolerant, forgiving like a tree. Offer all respect to others, expect none in return. In order to truly cultivate these feelings of separation from the Lord, we must aspire and make the goal of our life to be a servant of the servant in this mood of humility. And then we could chant the holy names of the Lord with deep feeling. Because deep feeling of chanting doesn't come by our own efforts. It comes by Krishna's grace. Our efforts must be to live in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. To be as attentive as possible in our sadhana. To live according to the character of a true Vaishnava. Trinadapi Sunichenya, this verse is revealing to us what is the consciousness of an actual devotee. By following in the footsteps of the great souls, Lord Chaitanya taught himself, and through his devotees, how to cultivate the chanting of the holy names. The last 12 years of Lord Chaitanya's Leela, he spent in the Gambhira in Sri Puri Dham, where in the association of Sri Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar Goswami, he tasted the mood of Sri Radha's love. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritirtha Dini Shaktirasma. The absolute truth is one. But to taste the sweetness of loving exchange, that one becomes two. In this holy book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, he asked this question. Naturally, somebody of this world, when they hear this description, that the absolute truth is one, but to taste loving exchanges becomes two, the question is, when? When did that happen? Is it 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago, 1,000,000,000,000 years ago, 100 quadrillion years ago? When did it happen? And Srila Prabhupada explains, in the spiritual world, time is conspicuous by its absence. There is no time. It's achintya. It's inconceivable. Having faith in the inconceivable is where the connection between the soul and Krishna is established. Because Radharani is eternal, Krishna is eternal. So where is the question of when? So if the absolute truth is one and becomes two, that becoming is not like becoming in this material world. It's forever. And now Kaviraj Goswami tells that those two have again become one. Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Krishna who has come with the complexion of Srimati Radharani and the Mahabhav, the ecstatic, pure love and compassion of Srimati Radharani. Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness that she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love. The Supreme Lord Hari appears with her, Sri Radha's emotions, from the womb of Sachimata, just like the moon emerges from the ocean. Today is Gaur Purnima, the day that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears within this world to bestow his mercy. Vrindavan Das Thakur tells that the holiest of all holy days are Gaur Purnima and Nityananda Trayodasi, because the maximum mercy are available on these 2 days. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he instructed the residents of Navadvip through Haridas, Brahma, and Nityananda Prabhu Balaram, wherever you go, whoever you meet, give this simple message: worship Krishna. Speak about Krishna. Chant the holy names of Krishna. Krishna is your mother. Krishna is your father. Krishna is your true wealth. Krishna is your very life and soul. Wherever you may be, whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, chant, remember Krishna's holy names. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. It's the supremest benediction in this age of Kali. On Gaur Purnima, let us try to emulate the wonderful example of the great devotees of the Lord. Let us try to emulate these wonderful teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And with profound gratitude in the association of devotees, let us celebrate by chanting the holy names. Also the birthday of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Lakshmi Moni Devi and Mataji, what is your name? Varanasi Mataji. I know, I remember, but I didn't recognize. I'm so grateful to see you. Amazing, incredible. Nartaki Devi and Lakshmi Moni Devi and Varanasi Devi and Shamsundar Prabhu somewhere around too. Let us welcome them to Sri Radha Gopinath temple by loudly chanting. My dear God sisters and God brothers, doesn't the sight of this book awaken most intimate feelings of separation from Srila Prabhupada? For the devotees in the late 60s, early 70s, this teachings of Lord Chaitanya was one of the most important and most enthusiastically read of all Prabhupada's books, because there was only a couple others. And Srila Prabhupada put his heart and soul into this. It's a deity. It's a new dress though. Thank you very much.